Rian walked through the broken streets of the old alien town. Dust rising under his boots, the place looked dead, as if time itself had stopped caring about it. Small shops were locked, windows were cracked, and people moved with their heads down. Always in a hurry but going nowhere, Rian was only passing through, looking for a cheap room for the night before his ship repair job started in the morning. He didn't plan to talk to anyone. He didn't plan to get involved in anything. He just wanted rest, but then he heard it, a breath, a whisper. So soft he wasn't sure if he imagined it. "Help, please." Rian stopped walking. His heart jumped once before settling again. He looked around, but no one else reacted. An alien woman selling fruit kept arranging her baskets. Two men argued over coins. A child ran across the street laughing. No one turned. No one even lifted their head. Maybe it was just wind, Rian thought. Maybe a pipe or an echo. But then he heard it again. This time weaker, trembling. "Please. Someone." The voice sounded like it came from the ground, not from the street. A dirty stone wall stood a few steps behind him, its edges covered with moss and old stains. The wood cover was broken in half. Hanging loosely on one side, Rian stepped closer, a cold, strange feeling moved up his spine. He leaned over the edge and looked down, but he could only see darkness, thick and heavy like smoke. "Hello?" he called. His voice echoed deep inside. No answer, only silence. Then suddenly, "Human. Please, don't go." Rian jerked back in shock. His whole body tightened. He hadn't said he was human. How did the voice know? He looked around again, expecting people to be staring at him. But everyone walked normally. Some even glanced at him with annoyance, as if he was disturbing their quiet streets. A man passing by muttered, "Ignore the well, stranger." "It's cursed," another woman whispered. "That voice has been there for days. Let it die. It brings trouble." But they didn't stop. They didn't care. They walked faster, moved away from him, and refused to even look at the well. Rian felt anger rising inside him. He wasn't someone who walked away from a cry for help. Not after what he had seen in his own life. Not after the times he himself had been ignored. He knelt beside the well, leaned closer, and spoke softly. "Hey, I'm here. Tell me where you are." A fragile breath answered him. "Down. Down in the dark. I can't climb, please." The voice was tiny, weak, and filled with fear. It sounded like a child or someone very hurt. Rian pulled a small flashlight from his bag and pointed it inside. The weak beam didn't reach the bottom, only revealed broken stones, dripping water, and hanging roots. "People heard you before?" Rian asked, a long pause. Then the whisper came, tired and shaking. "Yes. They heard. They laughed. They threw trash. They left. I thought I would die here." Rian swallowed hard. His jaw tightened. His eyes burned with anger he didn't show. What kind of world left a child an alien or not to die in a dark hole? "What's your name?" Rian asked gently. A soft answer floated up. "Nira." "Okay, Nira," he said, forcing calm into his voice. "I'm Rian. I'm not going to leave you." For the first time, he heard a tiny breath of relief from the darkness. "Human. You came, someone came." Rian looked around for anything that could help. A few broken beams lay near a wall. Dirty ropes tied in knots, stones piled like trash. Nothing strong enough for a rescue, but he knew he couldn't wait. Every second Nira spent down there was a second closer to death. He stood up and shouted at the nearby market. "Hey! Anyone! There's someone trapped down here. I need help." People froze for a moment, then quickly walked away. Some pretended they didn't hear, some whispered. "Don't involve yourself," others said. "It's better if she dies." She was thrown there for a reason. Rian stared at them in disbelief. This wasn't fear. This wasn't ignorance. This was cruelty. He turned back to the well. "Nira, I'm not like them," he said firmly. I heard your voice. And I'm going to help you, the whisper replied. Soft but full of hope that hadn't been there before. I knew. Someone would come. Someone kind. Rian's flashlight flickered, the darkness inside the well swallowing its light. He slowly tied a rope around his waist, testing the strength. His heart beat fast, his hands shook. But his mind was clear. He was going down there. Into the cold, into the dark, into whatever danger waited. Because someone had whispered for help. And Rian was the only one who answered. Rian tightened the rope around his waist one more time. But he already knew the truth. This rope was old. Thin, and probably not strong enough for a full climb. Still, he didn't step back. He couldn't. Not after hearing Nira's shaking voice echo up from the darkness. He placed a small lantern on the edge of the well to keep light above him. Then held his flashlight between his teeth. His hands gripped the rope, his muscles tense. The air around the well felt colder, heavier. Like the darkness was alive and waiting for him. Before climbing down, he leaned again over the edge and whispered, Nira, I'm coming down. Don't be scared, a tiny breath answered. I'm scared. But I'm more scared of being alone. Please come. Hearing her voice made something sharp twist in his chest. She sounded too young, too frightened, too close to giving up. Rian swallowed hard and lowered the flashlight again to see deeper. But the well seemed endless. The light died before reaching the bottom, only showing broken stones and shadows that moved slightly when the wind passed. He needed to check something first. He grabbed a small piece of metal from the ground near his feet and dropped it into the well. He waited, counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3. Then, splash, but the splash came far too late. This well was deep, dangerously deep. If Rian slipped once, he would never come back up. Still, he didn't step back. Instead, he shouted again. Nira, look toward my light if you can. I need to see you. A tiny, trembling voice replied. I'm here. I see something. Very small light. Rian lowered the lantern a little and leaned as far as he dared. Then he saw it. 2 faint glowing blue eyes far below. Like small stars trapped in a prison of stone, the eyes blinked slowly, weakly. Full of fear, but also full of hope, he exhaled in relief. There you are, he whispered. Don't worry. I'm getting you out. Up the street. 2 alien men stopped to watch Rian. Shaking their heads, one said, Another fool human. He will die too, the other replied. Let him die. The girl is cursed, Rian ignored them. But anger burned inside him. Not once had he heard kindness. Not even one word of concern from the locals, only fear, disgust, and cruelty. He anchored the rope around the broken beam again, tightened it with all his strength. Then slowly began lowering himself into the well. The cold hit him instantly. The stone walls were wet. Slippery, covered in moss and mold, water dripped onto his face. His neck, his hair. He moved inch by inch. The old rope creaked above him with every shift of his weight. Every sound made him stiffen. What if it snapped? He kept going. His boots scraped the wall as he pushed down carefully. His breath grew louder in the narrow space, echoing around him, but Nira's voice kept him steady. She whispered tiny updates. I can see your light. It's brighter now. You're coming closer. Rian felt his fear settle, turning into calm determination when he reached halfway. He stopped for a moment on a small stone ledge. He finally got his first clear view of Nira. She was small, maybe 10 or 11 in human age. Her hair was tangled, her skin pale and bruised. Her thin arms hugged her legs tightly, trying to stay warm. She sat on a cracked stone that barely held her weight. One move and she could fall into the deep water below. Rian spoke softly. Hey Nira. You're doing good. I'm almost there. Her glowing eyes widened. You really came. I thought I was dreaming. Rian gave a small smile even though his chest felt heavy. No dream, kid. I don't leave people behind. He reached the bottom of the rope's length and stretched out his hand. But the ledge Nira sat on was still too far. He needed to move closer. He took a deep breath and jumped, just a small leap, but enough to land on the same ledge. The stone shook under his weight. Nira gasped. The well echoed with falling dust and small rocks. But the ledge held. Rian crouched in front of her. His voice gentle. Are you hurt? She nodded slowly. My leg. Something bit me. And I was hungry. I thought I would sleep and never wake again. Hearing that made Rian's stomach twist. She had been alone, scared, abandoned. And still she had whispered for help, hoping anyone would listen. He placed a warm hand on her shoulder. You're safe now, Nira. I promise you. Nira's lips trembled. No one has ever said that to me. Rian looked up at the rope. It was now slightly torn from the jump. Fibers sticking out, ready to fail. He felt fear again, but not for himself. For her, he whispered. We have to move fast. Nira looked up at him. Trusting him fully, will you take me out? To the light? Rian nodded. Yes, Nira, I will, he said, voice firm like steel. Even if I have to carry you with my bare hands. Above them, someone shouted. Leave her. She is cursed. Rian tightened his jaw. He ignored the voices, the fear, the darkness. He focused only on Nira, the small girl shaking in front of him. He took a deep breath and whispered, We are getting out of here. Together. Rian rested his hand on the cracked stone beside Nira, trying to stay steady on the narrow ledge. The air inside the well felt heavy, almost too thick to breathe. The dripping water echoed through the darkness like slow, cold heartbeats. Nira looked up at him with wide, glowing blue eyes. She was shaking not just from fear, but from hunger and cold. Her small hands were scratched and bruised, her legs weak from days without food. Rian crouched in front of her, speaking softly. We're going up now, Nira. You're coming with me. She nodded slowly. But her voice was full of worry. The rope looks weak. Will it break? Rian followed her gaze. The rope above them swayed slightly, its worn fibers hanging like tiny white threads. One strong tug could snap it, but he couldn't tell her that. He gave her a calm smile instead. It won't break on us. I won't let it. He wasn't sure if that was true, but he had to make her believe it, because fear could make her panic. And panic inside a narrow well meant death. Rian took a deep breath and checked his bag. He had a small emergency kit, a metal hook, and another tiny rope, not strong enough for climbing, but useful as support. First, he tied the small rope gently around Nira's waist. This is to keep you close to me, he said. I won't let you slip. Nira's voice cracked as she whispered. No one ever held on to me before. Rian felt a wave of sadness hit him. What kind of world treated a child like she didn't deserve help? He leaned forward and lifted her carefully. She was so light he could feel her bones. He wrapped her small arms around his neck and held her close to his chest. Hold tight, he said. Don't let go. Even for a second, her fingers curled into his jacket. I won't, she whispered. It sounded like a promise she had waited her whole life to make. Rian grabbed the rope above his head and pulled once to test it. It groaned, a long, angry creak that echoed through the well. His heart dropped. This wasn't going to be easy. But he forced his hands to stay strong. He lifted himself up slowly. One arm at a time, his muscles shook, his breath grew heavier. Carrying Nira made everything twice as hard. The rope swayed dangerously. Bits of dust and tiny rocks fell from above. Nira buried her face into his shoulder. Don't fall, she whispered. Her voice sounded like a prayer. I won't, Rian replied. He wasn't sure if he said it for her or for himself. As they climbed higher, the ledge below them disappeared into darkness again. The well smelled of wet stone and old decay. Each time the rope groaned, Rian froze, gripping it harder. waiting to see if it would snap once he slipped. His boot lost its grip on the wall. His whole body swung, hitting the stone hard. Nira screamed, "Rian!" He coughed, pain stabbing his ribs, but he tightened his grip and steadied them both. "I'm okay." "Don't be scared," he whispered, even though his hands burned from the rope and his arms felt like fire. Above them, faint voices floated down. Some laughed, some whispered, some even said, "Let the human die with her." Nira heard them and trembled again. "Why do they hate me?" She asked in a tiny voice, "What did I do?" Rian felt anger rise again. He climbed a little more before answering. "You didn't do anything wrong, Nira. They're wrong, not you." "I don't care what they think." Nira pressed her forehead into his neck. "No one ever said that to me." Rian kept climbing. The top felt far, like the light above was teasing them. His arms shook violently now. He could feel sweat mixing with the cold water dripping from the walls. Then, suddenly, a sharp tearing sound blasted through the well. The rope jerked. Rian froze. The part of the rope above him was unraveling. Not fast, but slowly, dangerously. One more heavy movement, and it would break. Nira gasped. "We're going to fall." Rian forced his breath to stay calm. "Look at me," he whispered, shifting her weight slightly. "Don't look up, don't look down. Just look at me." She obeyed, eyes wide, filled with tears. Rian looked up at the breaking rope. He had only one option. He had to climb faster. Even if his arms were burning, even if the rope snapped at any moment. "Nira," he whispered, "I need you to be brave. We have to move quickly. I'll try." She whispered, her voice shaking. With one last deep breath, Rian pulled himself upward, one step. Then another. Then another. The rope screamed with every move, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. The light above grew brighter. The sounds from the street grew louder. Nira tightened her grip, whispering, "Please. Please don't fall. Please." Rian gritted his teeth. His vision blurred from sweat and dust. His hands felt numb. But the opening was close. Just a little more. Just one last pull. The tearing rope made one final horrible sound. But Rian didn't let go. He gathered all his strength, all his fear, all his hope, and reached for the edge. His fingertips touched stone. He pulled with everything he had left. They were almost out, almost safe. Rian rested his back against the rough stone wall inside the well, breathing hard as he held Nira close. They were only a short climb away from the surface now. But the rope above them was stretched thin, torn in places, one bad pull from snapping completely. Nira clung to him tightly, her trembling fingers gripping his jacket as if he was the only solid thing left in her world. Rian wiped sweat from his forehead and tried to calm his fast heartbeat. The climb had taken more from him than he expected. His arms burned, his hands were raw, and every breath felt heavy. Still, he spoke softly, "Just a little more, Nira. We're almost there." She nodded slowly, but didn't lift her head. She kept her face hidden in his shoulder. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "Why? Why did you come for me?" Rian blinked, surprised by the question. "Because you needed help. Why else?" Nira shook her head weakly. "No one ever helped someone like me. Not here, not on this world." Rian felt the cold inside the well tighten around his heart. "What do you mean, someone like you?" Nira let out a shaky breath. "My people don't want me. They never wanted me." A chilling sadness filled her voice. Her words carried a pain deeper than the darkness around them. Rian gently shifted her weight so she could sit on the small stone ledge while he rested his arms. "Tell me," he said softly. "I'm listening." Nira hesitated as if speaking her truth might break her. But then she looked up at him with those glowing blue eyes too tired for a child, and she whispered, "I was born weak. Small, slower than the others. And people said I was defective." Rian's jaw tightened in anger. He didn't show it. But his chest burned with frustration. How could anyone call a child defective? Nira continued, her voice shaking with old memories. When I was very young, the healers said my body was not strong enough to work in the mines or factories, so my parents. They didn't want me. They said I would only be a burden. She bit her lip, fighting tears. They gave me away. To a shelter. But even there, no one cared. Rian clenched his hands until his knuckles turned white. It felt unreal, this tiny girl. Abandoned again and again, tossed around like trash. And now left to die in a filthy well, on the day of the raid, Nira whispered. The slavers took the strong children, the ones they could sell. But when they saw me, they laughed, and said I was worthless. Her voice cracked, so they pushed me into this well. They said, let the dark eat her. Rian felt his stomach twist in disgust. He wanted to scream at the world above them, at the people who had passed the well every day and done nothing, at the slavers who treated a child like she was not even alive. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Nira, listen to me carefully, he said. His voice low but steady. You are not worthless. You never were. Nira's eyes widened at his words. No one had ever said anything kind to her before, not once in her life. She whispered, but why do you say that? I can't fight. I can't work. I can't even climb out of this well. Rian shook his head firmly. Being strong is not just about muscles or work. It's about surviving when life tries to crush you. He looked into her eyes. And you survived, Nira. You kept calling for help even when you thought no one would come. Nira blinked, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. I only whispered because I didn't want to die alone. Rian gently wiped the tears from her cheek. And now you're not alone, he whispered. Not anymore. Her lips trembled. She leaned closer to him, like she was trying to absorb the warmth and safety she had never known. Her voice was soft. Rian, I'm scared. What if they hurt you for helping me? Rian let out a breath. They can try, he said, his voice sharp with determination. But I'm not leaving you here for anyone. The rope above them creaked again, reminding him that they didn't have much time. He tightened the strap around Nira's waist and lifted her gently onto his back. She wrapped her small arms around his neck. Her breath trembled against his shoulder. Rian looked up at the bright circle of light above. Every second felt like a countdown. Every breath echoed in the darkness. He whispered, ready? Nira whispered back, only if you don't let go. Rian nodded, I won't. Then he grabbed the rope again, ignoring the pain in his hands, ignoring the fear in his chest. He pulled himself upward, step by step, carrying the girl no one wanted, the girl everyone left to die. But the girl he refused to abandon, not here, not ever. The darkness below them faded as they rose slowly toward the light, toward a world that didn't want her, but would have to face the human who did. Rian felt every muscle in his body scream as he climbed. But he didn't slow down. Nira's tiny arms were locked around his neck, her body shaking against his back. The rope above them stretched, groaned, and trembled, each sound a warning that their time was running out. The circle of light at the top of the well felt close but impossible at the same time. It was like climbing toward a dream that kept pulling away. Rian gritted his teeth and kept going, one burning step at a time. Nira whispered into his shoulder, is the top close? Really close? Rian forced calm into his voice. Yes, just a little more. Hold tight. But in truth, he didn't know how much longer the rope would hold. His hands were raw, his palms torn open, sweat made his grip slippery. And every time he shifted Nira's weight, the rope threatened to snap. Then they heard voices above, not kind voices, not curious voices, but angry ones, cold ones. She's still alive? Why didn't the well kill her? Who told the human to bring her out? Rian felt Nira flinch at every word. He tightened his grip on her small legs. "Don't listen to them," he whispered. "They don't decide what your life is worth." Nira pressed her forehead deeper into his back. "But they hate me. They always hated me. And I don't care," Rian replied sharply. His voice echoed loudly in the well. "If the whole world hates you, I'll still climb." Her grip tightened. For the first time, she truly believed him. Rian lifted himself again. A sharp sound blasted through the darkness. "Essen, Peter." Her rope jerked violently. Rian's heart exploded in fear. A whole section of the rope above them ripped. Long threads falling like dead leaves. Nira screamed, "Rian!" He slammed his foot against the stone wall, stopping their fall. His hands burned as the rope tore his skin. Pain shot through his arms like fire, but he held on. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He didn't blink. For 5 long seconds, the world hung still. Then the tearing stopped. The rope held barely. Rian whispered, breathing hard, "It's okay. I've got you. Don't be scared." Nira lifted her head slightly. "But you're hurt." Rian laughed softly despite the pain. "I'll hurt later. First, I get you out." As they climbed closer to the top, shadows appeared above the edge. A group of aliens gathering, watching them with cold eyes. One of the aliens stepped forward and shouted into the well, "Human! Leave the girl where she is. She was thrown down for a reason." Another voice added, "If you bring her out, you'll face punishment. She's cursed. She brings trouble." Nira's breath shook. "They want to send me back." Rian's voice hardened. "They're not sending you anywhere." He climbed faster, ignoring the burning in his arms, ignoring the pain in his hands, ignoring the fear boiling inside him. Then another alien leaned over the well holding a knife. The blade glinted in the sunlight. And Rian heard the most terrifying words of the day. "Cut the rope," Nira gasped. No, please no." Rian felt a cold fury explode inside him. "Touch this rope and you'll answer to me." He shouted upward. His voice was raw, shaking with anger, not fear, fury. The alien with the knife hesitated. The crowd murmured. Some pressured him. "Cut it. Do it. She shouldn't come out." But something about the human's voice made the knife holder flinch. He stepped back, hands shaking. Rian used that chance to climb faster. He felt the rope thinning above him. It was stretching seconds from snapping, but the edge was close. So close he could feel the sunlight warming his face. With one final desperate push, he threw his arm over the stone rim. The rope tore more. Threads snapped. Nira screamed his name again, but Rian didn't fall. He pulled with everything left inside him, pulled with pain, rage, and sheer human stubbornness. His chest scraped the stone. His knees scraped the ground, and suddenly they were out. Finally out, both of them. Rian collapsed on the dirt. Gasping, Nira clung to him, shaking, crying into his shoulder. The crowd stepped back, shocked, watching the human pull the unwanted child into the light. But then footsteps approached, heavy, slow, official. A city guard captain wearing dark armor stopped in front of them. His voice was cold. "That girl is marked for disposal." Rian lifted his head. Eyes burning, he pulled Nira close and stood up slowly. Even exhausted, he looked dangerous, protective, unbreakable. He spoke in a low, steady voice. "You want her?" He took one step forward. "Come take her from me." Silence fell like thunder. Asterisk, asterisk, dust swirled around Rian's feet as he stepped in front of Nira, shielding her from the guard captain and the angry crowd. His body shook from exhaustion. His hands bled from the climb. And every muscle burned like fire, but none of that mattered. Nira held tightly to the back of his jacket, hiding behind him like a frightened shadow. The guard captain stared at them with cold, flat eyes. "Human," he said slowly. "Return the girl." "She does not belong to you." Rian's voice came out low and rough. "She doesn't belong to you either." A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. No one talked back to the captain. No one dared. The captain took a step forward. She is marked for disposal. That order came from the council. Nira flinched at the word disposal. Rian felt her trembling through his clothes. He turned his head slightly and whispered, "Don't be scared. I'm here." Then he faced the captain again. "She's a child," Rian said sharply. "Not trash. Not a curse. Not something to throw away." The captain's jaw tightened. "You do not understand our laws, human. Weak children bring weakness to our world. This girl is a defect. If she leaves the well alive, the council will punish us." Rian stepped closer. "So your solution is to kill a child? Because it's easier?" The captain raised his hand, signaling his soldiers. "Take the human and the girl." Soldiers moved forward, armored boots smashing the dirt. The crowd stepped back quickly, forming a circle around them. Some whispered eagerly, "Good. They'll take her. She should have died down there. She will bring trouble if she stays alive." Nira clutched Rian's hand so tight it felt like she was holding on to life itself. She whispered, "Rian, they will hurt you because of me." Rian knelt and looked her in the eyes. Her face was smudged with dirt, her hair tangled, her eyes watery with fear. He placed one hand gently on her cheek. "Nira, listen to me." His voice softened but grew stronger with every word. "You did nothing wrong. You deserve to live. You deserve kindness. You deserve someone who cares." He brushed dirt from her cheek. "You're not the problem here." "They are." Nira's voice cracked. "No one ever talked to me like that." Rian stood again, turned to the captain, and narrowed his eyes. "You're not taking her." The captain raised his staff, signaling the soldiers to charge, but Rian moved before they could. He grabbed Nira and sprinted through the crowd. The people scattered. Shocked that he dared to run, "Stop them." The captain shouted, "Don't let them escape." Rian ran through the dusty street, dodging vendors, leaping over crates, pushing through tight alleys. His breathing grew heavier with every step. He was exhausted from the climb, but adrenaline drove him. Behind him, soldiers thundered after them, boots slamming the ground, weapons clanging, voices shouting. Nira bounced against his chest as he carried her. "Rian," she whispered, "you're tired. Put me down. They'll hurt you." Rian shook his head and kept running. "I won't drop you. Ever." He turned a corner and ducked into a half-broken building. Hiding behind a fallen pillar, he placed Nira down gently. "We need to be quiet," he whispered. "We'll wait until they pass." Nira nodded. But her eyes were full of fear. She crawled closer to him and whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Rian looked at her, breathing hard. "Because I know what it feels like to be left alone." He swallowed. "When I was a boy, I begged for help too. And nobody came." Nira's eyes widened. You were like me?" Rian smiled sadly. "Not exactly. But I know how it feels when the world decides your life doesn't matter." He brushed her hair back gently. "And I swore that if I ever heard someone whispering for help, I would answer." A tear fell down Nira's cheek. "You answered me." Heavy footsteps echoed outside. The soldiers were getting closer. Rian quickly grabbed her hand. "We need to move." They slipped through a hole in the back wall and into another alley. Rian's legs felt like they would collapse. His vision blurred, but he kept going, one step at a time. One breath at a time. Nira looked up at him. "Will you take me away from here?" Rian squeezed her hand. "Anywhere you want. A safer place. A kinder place. You're never going back into that well." Nira breathed out slowly, for the first time since he found her. There was something new in her voice, not fear, not pain, but trust. The street ahead opened into an old marketplace. Rian spotted a familiar face, a quiet alien shopkeeper who had watched everything from afar. The shopkeeper stepped out, eyes wide. "You rescued the girl," he whispered. "Come with me quickly. Before the guards find you." Rian tightened his grip on Nira and followed. The shopkeeper led them to a hidden door behind crates. Inside was a narrow stairway leading into the underground tunnels. "You can hide there," the shopkeeper said, his voice low and serious. "But be careful. The captain won't stop hunting you both." Nira held Rian's hand tighter. "Rian, will you stay with me? Even if they come again?" Rian knelt and met her eyes, his voice steady and warm. "I'll stay until the end, Nira." He touched her hand gently. "You're safe with me. I promise." And for the first time in her life, Nira believed someone's promise. The hidden stairway led Rian and Nira deep underground, where the air smelled of dust and old metal. The tunnels were narrow and cold, lit only by thin beams of light that slipped through broken cracks above. Rian carried Nira carefully, making sure her injured leg didn't hit the rough walls. The shopkeeper followed behind them, whispering urgently, "You must not stay long. Human, the captain has called all guards. They will search every house, every street, every shadow." Rian nodded. "Is there a way out of the city?" The shopkeeper pointed deeper into the tunnels. "There's an old transport exit, abandoned years ago. If you reach it, you can leave before the guards block the roads." Rian turned to thank him, but the shopkeeper surprised him with soft words. "You did something no one in this city dared. You saw her as a child, not a defect. For that, I respect you." Nira lifted her head from Rian's shoulder. "No one ever respected me." The shopkeeper placed a gentle hand on her hair. "You deserve respect, little one. You deserve life." Nira's eyes watered, but she stayed quiet. Rian placed a hand on her back. "She be safe," he said. "I'll make sure of it." The shopkeeper bowed slightly and stepped back as Rian headed into the tunnels. The darkness thickened as they walked deeper, the sounds of the city fading behind them. For a moment, everything felt calm, but that calm shattered when a distant horn echoed through the tunnels. Nira gasped. "That's the guard signal. They're coming this way." Rian grabbed her hand and moved faster. "Then we don't stop," he said. "Not for anything." The echo of heavy boots rolled through the tunnels. Voices carried through the darkness. "Search every passage. They're down here. Find the human and the girl." Nira squeezed Rian's hand. "They'll catch us." Rian shook his head sharply. "They won't." He spotted an old pipe tunnel to the left, rusty, narrow, barely wide enough for one person. He crouched and helped Nira crawl inside first. The pipe was cold and tight, scraping his back as he followed behind her. They crawled in silence for several minutes. Only the sound of Nira's breathing and the distant shouts of soldiers filled the air. Finally, the pipe opened into a large old chamber where dusty transport tracks lay forgotten. Rian stood and lifted Nira into his arms again. His legs shook, but he forced them to keep moving. Then he saw it, a small cargo shuttle at the far end of the chamber. Covered in dust but still intact, Nira's eyes widened. "Can it fly?" Rian smiled tiredly. "If it still has an engine, I can make it fly." He carried her inside the shuttle and placed her in the co-pilot seat. She touched the control panel with awe. So many lights. Rian opened the engine panel at the back and inspected the wires. The engine was old but workable. "We just need a spark," he murmured, working quickly. But before he could finish, a voice boomed from behind them. "Human." Rian spun around. The guard captain stood at the entrance of the chamber. Dozens of soldiers behind him, weapons drawn. Nira screamed and grabbed Rian's arm. "No, don't let them take me, please don't." Rian stepped in front of her again. Exhausted but unbroken, his voice was hoarse but steady. "She's not going with you." The captain stepped forward. "You endangered our city. You stole property. You interfered with the council's law." Rian raised his chin. "She is not property." His voice echoed strongly through the chamber. "She is a child, and I will protect her, even from you." The captain signaled his soldiers to advance. "Take them, before the soldiers reach them." Rian slammed his hand on the emergency power switch he had repaired. The cargo shuttle roared to life, its old engine screaming as it activated. Wind blasted through the chamber, dust swirling everywhere. The soldiers stumbled back in shock. The captain shouted orders. "Stop them! Stop that ship!" Rian jumped into the pilot's seat and strapped himself in. "Nira, hold on." She grabbed his hand tightly. "I trust you." "I trust you, Rian." He hit the thrusters. The shuttle lifted slowly off the ground. Shaking violently, laser shots from below blasted against the hull. But Rian didn't look down. He kept his eyes on the tunnel opening above. The way out, their path to freedom. "Come on, come on," he whispered. The ship rose higher. The captain roared in anger. "Stop them!" The shuttle shot upward, exploding out of the tunnel, breaking into the bright sky, leaving the city of cruelty behind. As the city shrank below them, Nira leaned against Rian, tears falling but mixed with a trembling smile. "Rian, I was abandoned in a dark well. But you came," she whispered. "You came for me." Rian placed a gentle hand on her head. "And I will never let you fall again." For the first time in her life, Nira believed she had a future, a family, a place, because one human refused to walk away.